5, 4, 3. I don't know why she has this. It's like, should I just be passing out right now? 2, 1. I need to put this somewhere.
Did a good job with that. Can you do it by sevens? I heard that's the new trend.
Webinar is now streaming live on Facebook. Awesome. Thanks for joining me today.
It's a new broadcast. Facebook's, well, I don't know if it's a new broadcast, but it's a new broadcast.
How's your week been?
My week?
Yeah.
Well, Mondays, is today Monday? Yeah, it's off to a great start.
Like the week last week. How was your week last week?
Last week has been busy. This whole interaction with people via this medium has been liberating, and for me, it's so much easier. I'm having more conversations at a faster pace, so it's been good.
A lot easier to get in front of a lot of people this way.
Or one-on-one. I know that nothing beats two people talking to one another. There's a lot of body language and stuff, but we can get a lot done this way, and I think it just is always going to be a part of the new path we all take. It's not exclusive, but it's good.
We're looking forward to hearing about culture today. I know it's on the minds of a lot of people. Maintaining that culture in this environment has been difficult and tricky. So we'll jump in just a minute as people continue to flood in. We had a lot of registration for this, Arnie. Yeah, I think you got very close to 200 people.
Well, when you they knew that we pay people to read as part of Better Book Club. They thought maybe they were going to get paid to attend. So people are jumping.
Are you not paying them?
Well, let's cover that at the end just to be sure we're on the same page.
Did you bring that money cannon with you?
Oh, you always have the best ideas when they're almost too late to implement. I'll see if I can pull it up.
Allie, just run him the money cannon in there.
I got it. I'm going to text Ann real quick.
Right. So as folks are coming in, we are recording this. We are streaming on Facebook. There will be a recording that's available at the end. We will have a blog up within 24 hours or so. And then everybody that registered for this will get a recap in their inbox with a link to the recording itself. I think I saw Kristen McLean is in here. So Arnie, you remember sometimes you'll see somebody that speaks and they draw the whole talk out. So Kristen is with us, and she's going to be drawing out your talk today, which is going to be amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will get you a copy of it, and we'll share that out at the end. Quick introduction, and then we'll do the QA and chat boxes and give you a little more instruction as people are coming in. So I had this really long introduction that we created. It's actually multiple pages.
It's a manifesto of me. It's awesome.
Dude, you're just so amazing. There's so much to love about you that I couldn't fit it on one.
We'll use the first hour of you just telling people great things about me.
And then Arnie sent me this one. He said, dude, if you just read this one sentence, it'll be okay. So I'll read this, and maybe some more people will bounce in here. So Arnie is an experienced entrepreneur with a culture-first mindset. Arnie has 3 successful business exits, has written a best-selling book on culture, and has delivered his sometimes uncomfortable message on leadership to thousands of leaders and entrepreneurs around the world. So he's here today to share that message with us. Look, I see a bunch of messages. EMP, class of 2012, class of 2012. There's a lot of people showing up. QA is open. If you have a question, please put it in the QA box. A lot of chat going on. Keep the chat moving through here. Arnie, I'll just interrupt you if there's a question that comes in I think is relevant. Otherwise, I'll hold it till you kind of get to the end. And I'll let you introduce Allie, and we'll get rolling.
Yeah, this is Allie Durfee. She is my executive assistant, has been for 7 years, starting her own company now called Radar EA. We may get a chance to talk to, but Allie makes sure that things that need to work well, and when I screw them up, she jumps in to correct them. So she's going to be on live with us as well.
Yeah, hey everyone.
I'm
All
glad
right.
you dressed. I'm glad you guys dressed like that today. We all need our wrong shirts on.
Yeah, where's yours, man?
It's in the closet. I didn't think.
I know. I forgot my money gun, and you forgot your shirt. It's one of those days. You want me to start rolling? What do we got?
Roll on, brother.
All right. First, I'm going to tell you who I'm talking to, and I'm going to give you a little background on me, and then I'm going to jump into the message, make this go as fast as we can. Hope you have patience with my brand of crazy. I'll do the best I can to keep you interested. First, it is always a challenge to talk to a group that Petra puts together. The company maturity, your knowledge of business, how you run your business is always way ahead of the average. And so coming up with stuff that can benefit you as companies is always a challenge. But I'm talking to all the companies. I know there's some big companies on the call, some small companies on the call. Hopefully the advice I give will help everyone in all those buckets, medium alike. There are three kinds of leaders that I'm talking to today. There's the company leader, the head of the company, the CEO, chief vision officer, however you want to frame your title. There's team leaders throughout all the companies, and then there's just leaders. You don't have to be the leader to be a leader. Everyone plays a role. How you conduct yourself is the way you show your leadership, good or bad. I'm talking to you too. There are two types of readers, people who have read my book and people who are going to read my book. Make sure you're in one of those categories. If you're on this call today, I'd appreciate it. There's also people on this call who participate currently in our Startup Better Book Club, and there's people on this call that will participate in our Startup Better Book Club. So again, make sure you're in one of those categories. If you know I'm talking to you, or if you think I'm talking to you, or if you think maybe I'm not talking to you, in all three cases, I'm talking to you. So get comfortable with the message that's going to come out of this. I'm talking to you. 20 years of work, owning a company, leading two companies or three companies and exiting has sort of taught me lessons. And I've tried to compile five of those lessons for you today to talk through. For those that don't know me, I spent the majority of my time founded and created CJ Advertising, an ad agency built to create brands for personal injury lawyers. I know I get you on the first part, fun ad agency, personal injury lawyers. Are you kidding me? Hey, it was a niche. We pulled the right people into the right cause, and we created a lot of success. Exited that company in 2017, and it's still tremendously successful today under its current leadership and ownership, and we're thrilled with them. Legal Intake Professionals, a call center, employed about 100 agents 24/7, 365. Running that culture is very different than running an ad agency culture, but we did it under one roof simultaneously, and there's a lot of lessons there to be learned. Better Book Club is my current project that I'm working on as a startup, and Radar EA, I mentioned that Allie is heading up. She's running that company. She places, finds, trains, and places quality executive assistants with tremendous entrepreneurs that are looking to fast track their growth. And so all that's what's going on with us, and that's sort of the background. So we'll start with, I'm going to jump right in, Andy, with lesson number one. You good? Awesome. If you don't grow your team, you can't grow your company. All entrepreneurs, I as an entrepreneur, probably you as an entrepreneur, if you're the leader of your company, started as a solopreneur. I started my company as a solopreneur. I could do something really well, and by hustling, I was able to find a few people that would pay me to do that service. And so the whole company was me doing a service well. Of course, if you do something well, you get busy and you need to hire some help to help you. And the first hires most solopreneurs make are to help you do the things you don't want to do or you're not that good at. And that takes you sort of stage two. You're kind of still a solopreneur with a little help. But the next opportunity is to become an entrepreneur. And to be an entrepreneur, it's really about creating value. And the creating value comes from finding a team that can do work better than you, even the stuff that you're great at and even the stuff that you love doing. And once you create a process and a team of people that can do the work better for you, then I think you're on your way to becoming a true entrepreneur. So any entrepreneurial company is really about creating value through the work of others and rarely just one person in the company. Well, to do that, you have to grow your team, right? You have to put your team on course to grow. And so I'm going to just pause right here and talk about, or get you to input on me in your current company, whether you're the leader, a leader, whatever role you play, put in the chat box the things your company does or that you do to help your team grow. And I'd like to see multiple examples here of what's going on in your company right now to help your company grow. I know there's going to be ideas that we've seen before, which is fine. I want to see ideas maybe that'll spark some thought for some other people. You can't beat the first two, Andy.
Mm.
As they come in here.
Got them coming into the QA too.
Okay. So we got seminars. I see Better Book Club. I see Petra. Growth Institute, right? A great way to pull chunks of learning down for your team. This is a group that's high, I'm sure, on this topic. They don't need a whole lot of extra coaching, Andy, because this is I know also a value you instill in your clients. Love this. Building an in-house university. I'm starting to see that more and more. It's a great way to curate learning within your organization. Personal development classes. Lunch and learns, right? Creating a system, creating systems that teach, systems that learn. As these come in, Andy, I found that most of these are probably going to fit in a few categories, right? And so let's talk about some of those categories. One is formal courses. Formal courses are ones that sort of create a foundation of learning. This morning I had, I'm the entrepreneur in residence at Belmont, and we had a class of about 20 that are in a summer program, and we talked about sort of the coursework that creates the foundation. No one really gets excited about coursework, but it's important that if we've got the right people from an aptitude standpoint, that the skills are there. The next one is thought leadership learning, right? How do we learn from people that have done it before us, that have a voice in the stratosphere? Things like Growth Institute, webinars, conferences, when we can return to those. That's where we hear from thought leaders, and it becomes an important part of building upon that base of coursework. Reading, like the simplest possible concept is how much we learn when we read. It's not necessarily the facts that come from the book we read. It's how we think when we read. It's why Better Book Club was such an important part of the teams that we grew at Legal Intake and at CJ in terms of creating personal thought leadership and expanding upon all the things that we learn. And so Better Book Club, that's been mentioned in the chat a couple of times, it's this process within a company for recognizing and rewarding reading. So the old concept of a book club is I read a book, I love it, I go buy 20 copies, and I come back and I pass out those 20 copies to my team, and I go, everyone read that book. And trust me, not everyone reads the book, right? We're going to come back in 3 weeks, and you're going to sit in a chair, and you're going to listen about how much I like the book, and you may get a word in or two about the book. That's not what we think of as a book club. What we think of as a book club is Better Book Club, is where our team members read what they want, when they want, how they want, and when they do, they're recognized and rewarded for it. And so this is a process we use within our companies. We built a system to let other companies do it. We currently have about 100 companies around the globe and about 5,000 users participating in Better Book Club. And whether you use that to recognize and reward your team, I encourage you to recognize and reward your team whenever they can get a book into their brain, because ultimately it's a winner. It's a win for your company. The next two, big deal, transparency and communication. Transparency and communication. How transparent are you with your company data? I know as a Petra client, as an Align user, the whole concept is to get as many brains around what you're doing as you possibly can. And the more brains around a problem typically end up with a better solution to that problem. So I know this group knows that well. How well you communicate that, how often you communicate that is also a test of sort of your learning platform. We found that when our team members said, I didn't know that, the typical reason was that we didn't tell them. And when I say they and we, I don't mean to divide the company, but there's leadership who sort of makes the decisions to be transparent, to be communicative, to reward reading, to send people for training. And then there's the people or the team that benefit from that. And when our team said they don't know, it's typically because we didn't tell them. And that was a change we needed to make, not that they needed to make. This last one is probably the most important of all. I had Allie make a separate slide for it. It's permission to get it wrong. How often are you giving your team members and the people that work around you and your teammates permission to get it wrong? And I would argue that the more permission you give yourself to get things wrong on the way to getting them right, the more you will innovate, and the more permission you give those around you to get it wrong on their way to get it right, getting it right, the more that they will innovate. And so these become sort of the big five in terms of how you're growing your team, because if you can't grow your team, you can't grow your company. Lesson number 2, I learned over 20 years. Upstream communication is as valuable as downstream communication. You know, we think of downstream communication as what leadership tells everyone else we're doing. I tried to run my company like that for years, and I got not very far, right? I got as far as most companies who try only running downstream communication. I had to learn to listen to my team to make better decisions to communicate to my team. And so that's why we say upstream communication. The information we get from our team up the organization is as important as, or maybe even more important as the information we pass down to our team. And until I could see our company through their eyes, it was impossible to build the company. One classic example is we were moving from an existing space that we were renting into a new building that was going to house our whole operation. I was so excited about it, but it was expensive. It was running over budget. It was running over time. And I started sacrificing things in the business to make that building better. And I had to be reminded by my team through a process we used to get that information that they knew I was excited about the building, but to them, it was just another place to work. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that I had to get my priorities straight. Often we get confused between client needs and team member needs. In this case, I was confused between building needs and team member needs. And what we have to know is team member needs often come first, or almost always come first. And so if I didn't have that system, I wouldn't have known, and I would have continued to make that mistake. And so there's multiple ways to get information upstream, right? But we used surveys monthly to get information from our team members. We called it morale survey. They would feed up comments about what we could do better. We would publish that information to everyone in the organization so that if one person thought it, we made sure everyone knew about it. And we responded to every comment to make sure people knew they were heard. The worst thing that we all experience is when we shout to be heard and we get no feedback that we're actually heard. And so our system had to be both ways. How do we get the information, and how do we let people know that they're being heard? And we used a process called morale survey. I'll talk about it in the book. I won't go into it a bunch now, but it was a monthly process, thousands of comments and thousands of opportunities to be better as an organization. Other things that exist are, lunch with leaders. When I just went out and hung out with the team on their turf at lunch, when I invited conversation, when I was willing to talk about things other than work, it's when I learned a ton about work. And so the willingness, even in this environment, to get on a Zoom call with a frontline worker and really understand the fears, the challenges, the opportunities, not that you can go immediately do something about it, so that you can make good decisions at the top that eventually make the job on the front lines a lot easier, become really, really, really important. So if you don't have a system, a routine, a reminder, a process, a checklist for making sure you're hearing from the team, then what I found is that I was constantly missing incredible information that was coming up through my ranks. And I couldn't make the right decisions. Last piece on that, something I did a lot in the last few years is just go hang out in a place I haven't hung out before. That included in normal times, our lobby, our call center, our production facility, our competitors when I could, other businesses that were kind of in my business but weren't in my business, and just observe. That is a form of upstream communication. Anytime I could get myself out of my crazy and into an environment where I could observe, I constantly learned a better way to be a leader, run my business, treat my people. And so often it's just about stopping and listening intently in a place you haven't been recently. So that's sort of the communication up versus down, making sure we're listening, making sure we have systems for that. Number three, yes, sir.
You move to that because you kind of blew past the morale survey piece.
Yeah.
You said it's in the book and it's detailed in the book. I put the link to the book in the chat. You need to go buy a copy of the book. It's all in there. But you took that to like superhuman levels. I know you had town halls where you had your entire organization. You read a lot of that information out to people. You put it in a coffee table book that sat in the front of the lobby that recapped every comment. And you even took it and put it on the public website, not the intranet, but the internet. So every single person could see it. Why did you go to that length with the information that was being shared? And you had a couple of rules about, what could be said and not be said in here.
Yeah, the only thing that we wouldn't publish is a personal attack, unless the personal attack was on me, and then we published it. But the reason you asked why, the reason was to hold myself and leadership accountable, and forever we all want to hear feedback until it's negative, and then when it's negative, we want to get mad about it, right? I'll show them, if they don't like this, just wait till that, right? If you don't like me yelling at you, wait till I yell really loud, right? And so that's a natural response. We found that once we became willing to share and respond to every comment, the question changed from why don't they get it to what are we doing wrong, right? Why don't they get it is the customary defensive response. What are we doing wrong is the learned behavior you get from thickening your skin to comments that may seem like they're trying to hurt you, but they're really just trying to help the organization. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then the publishing it and all of that was for accountability?
Yeah, just accountability. We immediately sent out, we published the score on the wall. We sent out every comment with a response to the entire team base. And then at the end of the year, we gather all the information and publish it in a book we put in our lobby. And we put it on the web so that, we constantly put it on the web so anyone could read it and know what is it really like in CJ or legal intake. Not what do they say it's like, not what I heard from one person, but what does the crowd say? And the crowd, I was responsible for making sure the crowd liked where they worked.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
always impressive.
Yeah, it's I think the biggest thing is just learning to listen to comments and not be defensive. The best advice I can give you for that is never read the comments alone. Always do it with a team around you so that you can suppress enough of your anxiety to get the right answer. Allie, you were a part of, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say that the team doesn't just consist of leadership reviewing the comments. It's of someone from each department who you feel like you're honored to be in that meeting to hear your teammates and their concerns and to see how everyone responds. So you want to tell them how you reviewed it.
Allie, that is so valuable. That's why she's on the call, Andy, because she brings so much value. Let me tell you, when we spent so much time, we learned we had to do it wrong on a way to getting it right. But we spent multiple meetings trying to figure out what comments meant. As soon as we brought frontline people into that meeting, they could tell us what the comments meant. Like we didn't understand the language of our frontline because we didn't hear it enough. But once you bring a frontline person into that meeting and they hear the comment, they can tell you exactly what the comment means, and they can actually put you on the road to fixing it much, much faster.
That's awesome.
Number 3, if you don't celebrate your milestones, neither will anyone else. We are all, as I was for years and years and years, and just continually rowing the boat, so hard to look back and celebrate milestones. It's kind of like the old story that you've heard, probably hundreds of times. You're in a boat from the beach, you take off towards the horizon. After a while, you can't see the beach. Everything in front of you is ocean. Everything's behind you, ocean. You travel for hours, days, and weeks, and you feel like you're going nowhere until you start dropping those buoys in the ocean, so that every once in a while you can look back and you can see how far you've been. And that's encouraging to you as a leader, the leader or a leader organization, and it's encouraging to everyone who's following your company, so that progress can be recognized and applauded. It is an important part of the journey in terms of energy. We found that the more we recognized our milestones and the more we let our team participate in that recognition, the further we got. This is what we did, is we sent out a survey and we said, hey, over the past year, tell us the things that mattered most in our organization to you. We got all that feedback. We curated that into some common themes, and then we sent it back out for people to vote on. Once they voted, we listed the top 10, and we published it on the wall, right? So that we could celebrate. It was in our lobby. We could celebrate these milestones. Our visitors could celebrate these milestones. It created stories we can tell, and we had one of these posters for every year, running for about 6 or 8 years. This can be done electronically. It just gives a common story to what's happening in your organization that everyone can refer back to. If you don't celebrate your milestones, your team won't celebrate your milestones, and all of a sudden we're fatigued because we have no idea how far the boat has gone. If you don't celebrate your milestones, no one will. Lesson number 4 that I learned over tons of time. The best culture programs aren't led by leadership. The best culture programs are led by champions. How do I know a culture project will fail to take root in an organization? This is the number one way I know a project will fail in an organization. When the leader says, I'll take that on. When anyone on leadership says, I'll take that on, the culture project has a larger chance of failing. It's because the project ends up on the side of the desk and not primary to someone's priorities in a crazy time. What we found is when we assigned a champion, not from leadership, to a role of creating a cultural-based program within our organization, then we had a very, very high chance of success. It was a priority for that person. That person wanted to shine in their execution, and they found much more support from their teammates than anyone on leadership would find for the same program. And so the number one way we knew something would fail is if a leader said, I'll do it. The number one way we found it would be successful is when it got assigned to a champion. Does that make sense, Andy?
It does. How do you pick, you said assignment to a champion? Is it a volunteer or voluntold or team pick, or what does it look like?
Well, number one of the great benefits of having a super EA in the organization, someone who is serving both the leader of the organization and the organization for best practices, is that EA can often identify people who have a thirst for leadership, an ability for leadership, the opportunity they want to help themselves grow, and so it becomes a suggestion, a nudge, and or volunteerism. But there are people in every organization that want to make a difference, and cultural programs are the perfect way to make that difference. Every cultural program needs 3 things to be successful. It needs a champion that's not on leadership. It needs a checklist, a way to keep up with what is successful in that program that can be repeated, whether that champion wins the lottery next week moves to another opportunity or just needs to pass along the program, and it needs permission to get it wrong on their way to getting it right. If you want to start a program, whether it's Better Book Club or the morale survey or thank you cards or recognition awards, whatever program you want to start, if you give it a champion, a checklist, and permission to get it wrong, you have a 95% chance of success with getting that thing embedded in the organization. And we've just seen it over and over again.
That's awesome.
The best culture programs are led by champions. Number 5, the lesson I learned over years in business: if you can't give a tour, then you don't know the culture. One of the things we prided ourselves on at CJ and Legal Intake was always being tour ready, that anyone could walk in the office back when people did that and said, tell me about CJ, tell me about LIP. We could give them a tour, and not just me and not just Allie and not just the front desk manager, that anyone could take someone on a tour of our facility and show them the programs we did that we used to be successful, could introduce them to the people that made our operation truly run, and tell the story of our agency or call center. We had to learn this the hard way. I noticed that many people in our company couldn't tell the story, and I had to think, why can't they tell the story? Why can't they tell the story? And it's because we never properly told them the story, that we never developed the concepts within the processes, the checklist, the programs, the champion-based programs to make sure every team member learned our culture, learned our story. And when they do that, not in a rush, but over time, then we're able to create successful storytellers and culture tour operators within our own company. If you can't give a tour of your company, then you don't know the culture. And so I would just press upon you that opportunity. Here's the way we did it. I want to mention this. One of the ways we did it. I know this is really hard to see. It is available in my book, and it is dated at this point. This is not something for you to rip off and duplicate without a little bit of massaging, but this is our 60-day checklist. It is what we used whenever we had a new hire to say, this is the stuff we want you to be awesome at and know about our company in 60 days. And instead of us cramming all that in the 3-hour integration meeting or first day meeting, we're going to have you learn this, take responsibility for, and learn these items over the next 60 days.
I'm going to get you to stop, because this is one of the most powerful things I've ever seen you share in the past, because everybody wants to know how to better do onboarding without adding additional work to themselves. So of the 100 or so people that are on this call, I just encourage you to put away whatever you might be doing on the side and really pay attention to this particular section, because this will blow your mind how Arnie was able to do this at CJ. So continue on. I just want to get everybody's attention really fast.
Thank you, Andy. So again, the mistake we make is saying that new person starts and we're going to teach them everything they need to know in the organization in 3 hours, and then we're going to show them their desk and they're ready to go. Now, I know that's not the Petra coach client way, but that is an extreme of what happens. This is the other extreme. New team member joins. They are handed this checklist. Each item has the thing they need to learn about and the person they're going to learn about it from. And it's their job over the next 60 days to schedule that time with the person that's going to teach them, who is the champion of that program, by the way. And they're going to learn about the program from the right person. It's not going to be crammed in so they can't learn it. It's going to be spread out. At the end of those 60 days, they're going to come speak. They're going to come talk to me. Our company was small enough that I would talk to every person at their 60-day, and they would tell me what they liked about this checklist, some of the highlights of the things they learned. My biggest question: what could we improve on this checklist? What did we not tell you that you felt like you needed to know? Boom, we add it to the checklist, right? It continues to improve. What was on here that was kind of a waste of your time? Boom, we can make an adjustment to it. That's an opportunity for me to then do another critical critical step, which was not have them become a team member by default, but by telling them that at this point, based on everything they've learned, if they would rather leave the agency or call center to take on a different course, because this is a really strange brand of crazy you're talking about, then I would pay them 2 weeks salary on the spot, no questions asked, because we'd rather lose the team member at that point than keep a team member who wasn't enjoying the culture they had just learned about for the last 60 days. I can tell you that it rarely happened, but it was still important to me to get that team member's commitment to becoming a part of Camel culture. And that's when we did it. We had them actually not decide in the moment, but take home a little agreement on a piece of paper that said, hey, I've learned everything I've appreciated, and I want to stay and be a part of the team. Or to say, hey, I've learned a lot. It's not for me. I'm going to leave. Go talk to your significant other, your favorite pet, your lucky charm. Do whatever you got to do, but come back, turn this in, and we'll be off and running, or you'll be on your way. And I believe it really went a long ways to confirm sort of the marriage between us, the institution, and the team member as a team.
And this
Allie,
is
Allie,
the book.
I was going to say, and the first starting them on a Tuesday rather than a Monday, and then also making sure that the new team member that was getting ready to start at CJ or legal intake, we would send them that first day checklist so they already knew what to expect. So that kind of calmed them a little bit. They could see they were being greeted at 9 a.m. So this kind of like set their course for their first day in their 60 days.
There's a question, right? It says, is the template for the decision to continue or not available?
Well, I don't have a template for that. We would, if the person made it to 60 days, then we would go check with their team lead and to see if there's any problems or issues, and if they confirmed at the team leader stage that this person was a good addition to our team, then we assume they were a good addition to our team.
And Billy wants to know, did anyone actually leave? If so, what percentage? You mentioned
Allie, I don't know. I can remember only two in over like 3 years that said not for me, and one of them they shouldn't have got him to see. We saw the difference earlier. It's not, my goal was not to make anyone leave. My goal was to make sure we were committed to learning and to growing with us, right? We have a culture where growth, confidence, optimism, and respect were our core values. And the onboarding is not just the onboarding of how does the copier work and how does Better Book Club work and how does the rewards program work and the thank you. Like those things are fun, but it's also an onboarding of values, the stories behind the values, why we believe what we believe, why we help the people we help. That's what we're really looking at. The rest we can learn, but if we don't have some sense of shared values or at least a respect for those shared values, then we got a problem.
There's a question here too. You can choose to answer it now or answer it later. It says, what is, you said this in passing, camel culture. What is camel culture? I
appreciate the question. I'm not going to get into it here. I will tell you that it's in the book. You have to discover it in the book rather than go into it now. How about that?
But the camel was your
mascot. I believe every culture needs a name, and if you can't name your culture, you may not have a culture, right? Name your culture, create a mascot. Ours was the camel. Some can guess at the reason, but name your culture, create a mascot for your culture, allow everything that's good and that you want to improve about your culture to be in that culture, embrace that, and roll hard with it. Otherwise, it's just a loose collection of things, and none of them by themselves can power you forward. But together, they can change your organization forever. Let them come together under a common theme, and then cheer for that theme, your people, and your progress. So recapping the 5 lessons learned over 20 years. If you don't grow your team, you can't grow your business. Upstream communication is as important as downstream. We often forget that as we get perched in our leadership chair. If you don't celebrate your milestones, neither will anyone else. The best culture programs aren't led by leadership, they are led by champions. And if you can't give a tour, you don't know the culture. Of course, it helps if you have a name for that culture. It starts the tour off really well, obviously. But here's the bottom line. Culture reflects leadership. Every organization has a culture. The question is, what kind? Good culture, most often, has good leadership. And bad culture, as uncomfortable as it may make you feel, often has bad leadership. If you don't have the culture you want in your organization, and you are the leader of that organization, here's my uncomfortable message to you. Culture reflects leadership, and it's up to you to do something about it. I had to learn, and it took me 10 years to learn this. I used to be mad at, and my team members from that era will tell you, I was mad at my team, I was mad at my clients, I was mad at my vendors, I was mad at the industry for creating this business that controlled me and people, and I was miserable and I was unhappy. But when I heard these three words, culture reflects leadership, I started realizing that everything I was mad about was not any of those people's fault. It was my fault. And it was up to me to create the culture that I wanted to participate in, much less the rest of the team. And so at the end of the day, if you're the leader, do something about it. If you're a leader, and we're all a leader of some sort, whether we like it or not, how we dress, if we're on time, how we conduct ourselves, how attentive we are, how well we do our work, how well we don't do our work, we're all leading in some way. So if you're a leader, it's the same answer. Do something about it. If you're not in the culture that makes you happy, do something about it. If you're in a culture that offers no growth, at the very least, start reading. And if you dare, be the champion of a reading program in your organization. If your culture gives you no voice, at the very least, commit to speaking up. And if you dare, champion a program that allows for better upstream communication for your teammates. If you're in a culture that allows no celebration or doesn't celebrate enough progress and the great things, at the very least, keep a list for yourself, celebrate your own milestones, and if you dare, offer to champion a milestone program in your organization. If you're in a business or a culture that has no execution, at the very least, trust yourself to get it wrong on your way to getting it right. And if you dare, trust a teammate. Show them your trust in them. Show them how you will support them on their way to getting it right. And you will build a much stronger base of communication between the two of you or your team. If you are in a culture that has no shared knowledge, at the very least, commit to learning the why behind the job you do. And at very most, teach others the why behind what you do and hope for that to spread. Everybody on this call has the power to impact their culture in some way, and most of us in a very significant way. At the very least, do something, and if you dare, do something for everybody. That's my primary message. Again, culture reflects leadership. As a leader of your organization, I would encourage, empower, and urge you to do everything you can to lead and rock your organization forward through the concept of culture. I'm open to questions. I don't know where we are on time.
We're good.
I know I've been blabbing a lot, and I appreciate everyone hanging out with me.
We got about 15 minutes left. We do have some questions. I'm going to ask this one, and I've got a couple of my own. This goes back to the surveys. So we consistently get feedback regarding pay on our surveys. I'm hesitant to share that because some people might be happy with pay, but hear someone else complain about it and start thinking about their own pay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. And here's my response: if someone's saying it, everybody's thinking it. You are not protecting anybody by withholding. The whole purpose of morale survey was to take all the things that were being said at the water cooler and expose them to the people that could actually listen and make an impact on those. But, you know, I hear a lot of people that, by the way, the morale survey is an advanced dark art. And I, you know, if you're going to do it, I want you to read the book. I want you to do a lot of research. Call me. I'm happy to talk about it. I don't charge for that kind of, I mean, I don't charge anybody for hardly anything. So it's fun to just talk about it, but I will tell you the things we did wrong and the things we did right. But the excuses have to stop, right? What if, you know, I don't want to give the survey. I know what they'll say. Well, if you know what they'll say, you might as well start listening, right? I don't want to give this survey because I don't want this bad comment to create other bad comments. What we've found is that if the bad, negative, think of it as you want, constructive comment was right, it was up to us to do something about it. When that comment was an outlier and not the real thing going on in the organization, everyone in the organization would rally around correcting that comment. Not in writing, but you get the, oh my gosh, did you see what was on the morale survey? I don't think that at all. Like, the majority of people will stand up and protect a culture they respect and appreciate. But if the sentiment is true, it comes back to, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to change your process, your procedure, your outlook, your pay if you have to bring things into a great spot?
Let's see. Allie, can you post info on the executive assistant training? Can you just post that up in the chat?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Sure.
We got a lot of questions, Arnie, so hang tight.
That's right. Hey, just the key on Radar EA and what they do. Here's the bottom line: is we believe this: if an EA has to ask what they need to do, you don't have the EA is not doing their job. It doesn't mean they're the wrong person. They just haven't had the training they need to become Radar-like. If you're old as me, you remember MASH. Radar always knew a little ahead of everyone else the things that needed to be done and the things that happened. And so if it doesn't mean, with the right leadership training, some info, Allie can change people's worlds.
All right, so we'll get that in there. Here's another statement, comment, question, sort of. So much of building a large organization is tied into taking and accepting feedback from employees. What recommendations do you have for when the feedback isn't in line with the culture you're trying to build, or directly contradicts feedback from other team members?
Well, you can't have a team without some contradictions, right? We're not building Stepford wives here, or what's a better, more politically correct term. Like, we're not building singular robots. We're building people that can think for themselves, who learn, who create, who can add value, right? Not clones, right? We're building better humans to power better teams, which power better companies. And so when comments are made that are out of line with your values, that is a tremendous opportunity to say so, right? You get to respond, right? You get to respond with a response that says, I appreciate your opinion. These are our values. Here's how we're going to align our response with the values, right? There's a art to this. And by the way, never, ever, ever, as a leader of a company, fire off responses to morale survey questions without a team looking at that and someone proofing you, kind of like the 48-hour rule. You will regret it, right? Never read them alone, and never fire off responses. Get input from people that you trust, and make sure that the answer is the one you want to give.
All right. Our company has start, stop, keep surveys that we send out each quarter. Employee participation has dropped dramatically. Any suggestions on, one, what we can do other than another survey to solicit feedback from our team members, or number two, encourage participation?
Yeah,
measured participation, posted participation percentages, talked about participation all the time. So this is a good question for you.
Yeah. The only thing worse than a low score on a morale survey is low participation. Low participation is the worst possible thing you can get on a morale survey. What we did is we posted the participation rate. We preached at every chance we got that we care more about participation than we care about the score, that the score is what the score is. but if you don't participate, then we have a whole nother world of problem out there. And occasionally we would reward participation or levels of, if we can hold 80% participation for 4 months, we're doing this, we're going to the ballpark, we're having this, we're having that. And so it create a little fun behind it. We don't want to always have something, but when it becomes a priority for you and your company, post the score, rally your people behind increasing that score, and really mean the fact that you'd rather have perfect, really high participation and low scores than low participation and high scores. This is not a make me feel good survey. This is tell me how I can make your life better survey.
And maybe
it kind of circles back. Oh, sorry. It kind of circles back to who's the champion of that morale survey. So for our morale survey was Renee, and she would go and say, get your morale surveys in, but it wasn't leadership always saying, get your morale surveys in. It was someone on their team.
That was exactly my comment.
And it's important, the more champions you have in your organization, the more they will help each other be successful. The more leaders you have trying to cram culture programs down everybody's throat, the more people will rally against that, right? It's the man putting it on, it's the leadership putting it on the people as opposed to the people rising to be great in the organization. It is a very different feel when champions of programs come from the team and not from leadership.
We talk at Petra about this kind of, axis growth piece. So if you've got a 15% year over year growth arc or a 20% year over year growth arc, and you started with, people have to grow or the business doesn't grow. We said people and processes have to both grow in that exact same percentage, or you're going to outgrow people pretty quickly. You had 5 different ways to do that in the very beginning, and started with, I know reading was in there. We got feedback from everybody. If you had to just pick like the number one thing that somebody could go do to grow people, what would it be?
Well, the first thing is the mindset of what I want, how I want you to grow and how you need to grow are 2 different things. And so the first thing I want to wave off is dictating growth the same way we would set someone's goals. If they set their own goals, they're much more likely to reach them. So first, know that we're looking for being better as a human being more than we are anything else. The rest will come. And so people learn differently. They absorb differently. Some people listen to books. Some people read books. Some people learn from webinars and seminars. Some people like podcasts. Some people want to read it. Some people want to attend it. How do they want to grow, and what's the best way for them to grow? That's the answer. So your job is to create programs, or the leader's job is to authorize programs that help people grow the best way they can grow. I get very frustrated when people say, I want them to do it this way, as opposed to the way that works best for them. So
it's letting them identify what that is. And then really it's just kind of watching that happen.
Right. And it's not even a requirement. First, it's you wanting that person to grow earnestly for themselves and their families before they think they're not being made to do something. I don't want to make someone grow. I want to inspire them to grow. So I want to provide them the tools they need to take that up. And sometimes we provide the tools, and this part of the organization, these 7 people, they grab onto it and run, and these 7 don't. And that's okay, because over time, it'll be a different 7, right? People will come around. People that are scared about programs will come around to programs. They'll fall on and off based on their family, based on their needs, based on their demands. Just provide the opportunity for people to grow and let them grow.
Allie, you want to take this? How do I get a T-shirt question?
Yeah, I'll send you one. Get the name and the.
Better Book Club membership often helps.
Oh yes, yeah, you get some stuff there.
So this question's in here in different forms. All of the initiatives and everything that you talked about, all the top 5 can be, I'll use the word implemented or started or championed in a traditional work environment like you had at CJ with 4 walls and a building and a bunch of people in it, or in our current work environment, which is mostly remote and work from home and a bit disrupted from the past. But the question is, what else can we be doing? What else, everybody's wanting to know, how do I keep culture alive being remote?
Yeah. Well, here's my answer to that. Ask your team. Like let's start with a bad idea, get a better bad idea, and then create a good idea. And the team often knows, and it just takes conversations, it takes processes in place. I also want to say, if there's anyone out there that doesn't have these programs and thinking we're going to do all those programs, you're not, right? One program a quarter, and over time, you will build up a catalog of things that fit into your culture. If you try to do more than one, you will fail. And most programs need about 3 quarters to take root. So you can't do it for a quarter and say that didn't work. Like, you got to, one at a time, champion, 3 quarters to get going, and then you're off. Back to your question. I did not lead my companies through a pandemic where we couldn't come into work. I'm sorry I don't have that direct expertise, but I am confident that there's no program that we did that can't be implemented remote. If we think about it, ask our team, brainstorm the options, modify it accordingly, put a checklist in place, put a champion in place, get it wrong till you get it right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of the answer. I don't know that you have to invent a lot of new things. You will have to do it differently. It's not, somebody said to me the other day, well, it's just much harder. It's much harder. I'm like, it's not harder. It's just different. It's not harder. It's just different. Here's our buddy, Riggs. So he's got a big, long question. You ready?
Yeah.
We're working through some org pivots that require a change and different mindset. For net new people, they don't know the way we used to do it. For our historical people who have been here for some time, it seems like they are climbing over Mount Everest. It seems like we are climbing over Mount Everest to get them to look at it through a different pair of lenses. How have you seen culture help here? Communication, transparency, etc. Well,
it's almost impossible to over communicate. It's almost, in my mind, it's impossible to be over transparent. I'm a very open book. Let me tell you where we're going so you can help me get there. This whole concept of reverse paranoia. Don't think about all the people trying to hurt you. Think about all the people who are trying to help you and assume that they are. That question has an hour-long conversation behind it. But at the end of the day, I found that leadership was easier when my team knew I cared about them, their growth, then they started caring about me and my growth. And so it starts with how I feel about every individual team member. I wasn't good at this early in my career. I like to think I became better at it later as we continue to grow the organization. The second thing becomes how willing I am to communicate, how willing I am to hear feedback, how willing I am to change my mind when it's clear that I'm on the wrong path. These are all very important things that may or may not answer the question, but at the end of the day, culture reflects leadership. Leadership grows our business, and it's up to us to get it right.
I think too, it's a little bit of dragging the past into the future, right? So people have been here before and did it one way, and we're going to change. Sometimes you just have to keep going, and they'll catch up. Like, oh shit, they're going to outrun me. I got to go run and catch them. Do it long enough, and they'll kind of catch up. So with your 60-day onboarding process, do you measure the progress and have check-ins during the 60 days? And then do you measure how well they're doing their job during that time period?
There's a couple of different questions. Do I check in on saying, are you halfway through your checklist? No. Does the manager keep up with their, how they're accepting the job, how they're doing, how engaged they are? Absolutely. Those are 2 different questions. But, the whole point of that is that I'm not going to manage your checklist. Neither is HR, neither is your boss. If you can't manage this checklist, we got a whole world of other problems in our organization. So if you can't get through the checklist, if you can't get it done, if you show up and you're scrambling the last week to fulfill it, that's a very clear sign that we're not on the right path.
And that checklist might be too big to start with.
Well, certainly have to examine that, right? But if 18 people have gone through it and now, the dog ate your homework.
All right, here's a good one for you. How do you establish a culture without strong and well understood and accepted values?
Can you read that again?
Yeah. How do you establish a culture without strong, well understood, and accepted values?
You know, when I first started my companies, we were running 3 companies under one, not when I first started, even midway through, 3 companies under one roof. Each company had its own set of values. I had my personal core values, which mean I had 16 values running around in my head as I went around and tried to manage the opportunities that we had. Someone asked a question one day that sparks flew, and we all realized we needed one set of values for the entire organization. And once we came up with that one set, and once we once we exposed the stories around why those are our values, and once we shared that with everyone in the organization, literally overnight, the progress and the growth of our company went through the roof because we were all on the same page. I don't think you can run a scaled organization without a shared and understood values. It took us years to figure that out, to get us to a point where we could share them in a way that then they could be reshared, that we made videos about them, we did stories about them, we were able to repeat them, we created programs that supported them, we cheered for each other through them. Those common values allowed us the ability to dream the big dreams and grow the big business, and most importantly, grow our people into success.
Yeah, I remember that staff meeting. It was the most powerful staff meeting, you rolling out and celebrating those new core values to all of the team members because they were personal stories to you that you shared. It was very vulnerable. Probably, yeah, my top favorite staff meeting to be a part of.
Good job, Arnie. All right, we're just a tad over time. I think we got through all this, couple more. How do you empower non-leaders to tackle culture projects when they're all billable and pushing towards a billable target?
Look, culture programs do not take 8 hours a day, 5 days. Culture programs take an hour or 2 a week. And there's no program that takes more than that. And if you put it all on one person, you're not going to get what you want. If you put it all on HR, you're not going to get what you want. If you divide it out and let people take on responsibility for things they're naturally engaged in, that's things they naturally would like doing anyway, you will find success. And an hour or 2, sometimes a month, is all it takes as long as there's consistent progress. Allie, would you agree?
True. I agree. 100%. It does not take a lot of your time. And if you're enjoying doing it for your company and and your team, you're making your team better people, then it's so easy to do.
It's a chance to be seen. It's a chance to collaborate with others. It's a chance to help others. There's so many wins that come from it that mm-hmm. It's a win. It's a win-win on both sides.
Allie, you got all kinds of private messages flowing in here. You need to check that.
Oh, I haven't even opened the QA yet.
There's a lot of stuff happening.
I just see this. Oh, okay. I'll post it in here.
So just be aware of that. All right, we're out of time. This is recorded, right? So awesome job, Arnie. Very popular, great Q&A, a lot of stuff flying around. You will get this in your inbox probably tomorrow morning, and also on the blog. As part of that, Arnie, you cool with me kind of exposing your email address to folks? Now that I just put you on the spot, you go with that. So if you have a question about something and want to do some follow-up, check in. Make sure you buy Arnie's book. The link is in chat, so you can go and do that. And Kristen McLean from the vividinkcompany.com, there'll be a link to her company in the recap as well.
Hey, the book is Audible too, so if you haven't heard me enough today, if you listen to me about 125, you can get through it in just a few hours. Easy read, easy stuff.
And Arnie's one of those guys that went into the studio for 2 solid days and read his own damn book, which was a little bit crazy. Not something that I wanted to go do, but you put that on for sure. Brother, I appreciate you being here with me. Allie, always good to see you. Really good day. And
great to see you. Thank you.
I'll see you in person very, very soon. Thanks, guys.
Bye.